Part 1. The Beginning of Us. Ella never believed in fate. Not until that rainy October evening when she ducked into a tiny coffee shop off Bedford Avenue. She was soaked, frustrated, and just wanted something hot to drink. That's when she saw him. Jake. He was sitting by the window, typing on a beat-up laptop, sipping black coffee like a scene from a movie. Their eyes met, just for a second. But that second was enough. "Rough day?" he asked, flashing a crooked smile. She laughed. "You could say that." They talked for an hour. Then 2. By the time the storm passed, Ella had forgotten all about the rain. Jake had this way of making the world disappear when he looked at you, like nothing else mattered. They left together that night. 2 strangers with soaked jackets and warm hearts. And just like that, her life began to change. Part 2. Falling Too Fast. Everything moved fast. Within a month, Jake was spending nights at her place. Within 3, he'd moved in. They decorated the apartment together. String lights, mismatched pillows, second-hand books. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like home. They danced barefoot to old jazz records in the kitchen. They made pancakes at midnight. They stayed up until sunrise talking about everything and nothing. Ella told her friends she was in love. "I think he's the one," she whispered one night, lying on her best friend's couch. "With him, it just feels right." And it did. But sometimes, love that burns the brightest also burns the fastest. Part 3. Cracks in the glass. The first red flag was easy to miss. Jake canceled their anniversary dinner, said something about a last-minute meeting. He didn't even apologize, just shrugged and kissed her forehead. "It's just dinner, Elle. We'll go next week." She let it go. Everyone gets busy, right? But then he started coming home late. Work calls turned into long hours. Date nights turned into lonely evenings. He was still sweet, still charming, but distracted, distant. Ella told herself it was temporary, a rough patch. But the space between them was growing, slowly, silently, like cracks in glass you can't see until it shatters. Part 4. Whispers in the Dark. One night, Jake came home smelling like a different perfume. Ella noticed. She always noticed. He hugged her, acted normal, but something in his eyes was gone, like he was there, but not there. She didn't say anything. Instead, she sat on the edge of the bed after he fell asleep, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. Was she imagining it? Was this what love turned into? Silence? Suspicion? Secrets? She wanted to believe in them, in what they had built. But deep down, something told her that Jake wasn't just tired. He was hiding. Part 5. The Message. It happened on a Sunday morning. Jake was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Ella never snooped, but something about that moment made her reach for it. The message flashed across the screen. "Last night was everything. I still feel you." Ella Sikonkolo, her breath caught in her throat. The room spun. Her hands went cold. She read it again, and again. And then came the name, Savannah. Who the hell was Savannah? Ella placed the phone back like it had burned her. Her heart was breaking, quietly, violently. She didn't cry, not yet. Part 6. What Hurts the Most. Ella didn't confront him, not right away. She waited. Watched. Jake acted like nothing had changed. Like he wasn't lying with every smile, every kiss, every "I love you." But Ella saw it now. The shift, the guilt in his eyes, the way he avoided hers. At night, she stared at the ceiling, wondering how many other lies he'd told, wondering what she'd done wrong. Was she not enough? What hurt the most wasn't the cheating. It was the pretending. Pretending he still loved her. Pretending she didn't know. Pretending their home wasn't already a graveyard of memories. Part 7. Her decision. The day she decided to leave, it was sunny. Ironically beautiful, like the universe had no idea her heart was breaking. She packed while he was gone. One suitcase, her journals, her grandmother's locket. Nothing more. When Jake walked in, he froze. "You're going somewhere?" he asked. She didn't look at him. "I'm leaving." He opened his mouth to speak, maybe to lie, maybe to explain. But she didn't let him. "I know, Jake, about Savannah." Silence. She waited for denial, for an apology, for anything. But all he said was, "I didn't mean to hurt you." And that was the last straw. Part 8. Starting over. Ella moved into a tiny guest room in her friend Mariah's apartment on the Upper West Side. It wasn't much, but it was quiet. Safe. She spent her days walking through Central Park, writing in cafes, slowly remembering who she was before Jake. Some days she missed him, some days she hated him. But most days, she simply healed. She learned to enjoy solitude again. She read poetry, took pictures of sunsets, talked to strangers, cried less. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel small. She felt possible. Part 9. Messages left unsent. Jake texted her, a lot at first, then less, then nothing. She never replied. He sent flowers on her birthday. She gave them to a neighbor. He called once at 2 a.m., left a voicemail. "I miss you, Elle. I'm sorry." She deleted it without listening to the rest. Forgiveness is hard, but forgetting, even harder. Some part of her would always remember the way he made her feel, in the beginning and in the end. But she also knew, just because someone was your home once doesn't mean they still are. Part 10. The Memory Room. One day, Ella found a photo strip from a booth in Coney Island. Her and Jake, smiling like idiots, in love, carefree. She stared at it for a long time, then folded it gently and placed it in a shoebox with a note. A beautiful lie. She didn't hate the memories. She cherished some of them. But they didn't own her anymore. The past was a place she could visit, not live in. She closed the box, locked it in a drawer, and chose to move forward. Part 11. A stranger named Owen. She met Owen at an art gallery. He was tall, soft-spoken, with kind eyes that actually looked at you. Not through you. They didn't fall in love overnight. There were no fireworks. Just slow warmth, gentle laughter, honest conversations. He asked about her past. She told him pieces, not everything, but enough. And when she said, "I'm not ready for anything serious," he simply nodded. "No rush," he said. "I'll walk with you as long as you want." And he did. Part 12. Finding Ella. Again. With Owen, Ella felt no need to perform, no pressure to be perfect. He saw her scars and didn't flinch. He admired her strength, but loved her softness more. They went to bookstores together, cooked quiet meals, danced in the living room, no music playing. She laughed more, slept better, trusted again. Not because Owen saved her, but because she saved herself. and Owen was just kind enough to stand beside her. Part 13. Closure in the coffee shop. Almost a year later, Ella walked into that same Bedford coffee shop. Same windows, same table, different woman. She ordered a cappuccino, sat by the window, and smiled. Jake wasn't there, but she thought of him. Not with anger, not even sadness, just closure. He had been a chapter, a storm, a lesson, but she had rewritten the ending, and she was proud of how it turned out. Part 14. The Last Text. One night, Jake texted again. "I saw you today. You looked happy. I hope you are." Ella stared at the message. Then, without hesitation, she typed, "I am." She hit send. And that was that. No pain, no drama, just truth. She didn't need an apology anymore. She didn't need anything. She had herself, and that was enough. Part 15. The New Chapter. Ella stood on her rooftop one evening, watching the city lights flicker below. The skyline no longer reminded her of what she'd lost, but what she'd gained. Freedom, clarity, peace. She took a deep breath, pulled her sweater close, and smiled. Love had broken her once, but now it had built her into someone stronger. And this time, she wouldn't lose herself to keep someone else. This time, the love story was hers. Late Nights in Brooklyn. Part 2. After the Storm. Part 16. Soft Starts. Life with Owen wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. They moved slowly. Walks in the park, quiet evenings, shared playlists, no rush, no pressure. Ella liked that he never tried to fix her. He just listened, asked questions, let her feel what she needed to feel. But sometimes, late at night, she'd catch herself comparing him to Jake. Not because she missed Jake, but because the wound had shaped her. She was still learning how to be loved without being broken first. Part 17. Ghosts in the Mirror. Some mornings, Ella would look in the mirror and not recognize herself. Not because she felt lost, but because she had grown. She no longer needed validation. She no longer craved chaos disguised as passion. But sometimes, she feared she'd become too guarded, too cautious, like she'd built walls so high even the good ones couldn't climb over. Owen noticed. He didn't push. But one night, he said gently, "You don't have to keep running. I'm not him." And that broke something open in her. Part 18. The Dinner. Owen invited her to dinner with his family. It was warm, loud, full of inside jokes and messy laughter. Nothing like what she had with Jake, who kept everything surface level and polished. Owen's mom hugged her like she'd known Ella for years. His dad poured her wine. His sister complimented her scarf and meant it. And somewhere between the salad and dessert, Ella realized she felt safe. Not just with Owen, but in her own skin. This was new and real. Part 19. The call. Jake called again. She ignored it. Then he texted, "I'm outside. Can we talk?" Ella's heart pounded. She looked out the window. There he was. Same leather jacket, same posture, but a different energy. Owen was out of town. Ella hesitated, then opened the door. Jake looked tired, older, regretful. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I never said it the way I should have." Ella no Leroux. She didn't yell. She simply said, "I know. And I've already forgiven you, but I don't need you in my life anymore." He nodded and left. Part 20. A good goodbye. Jake never reached out again, and that felt good. Ella finalmente entendió que la cierre no viene en una conversación. It comes in the quiet after, when you no longer need answers. That night, she sat on the fire escape with tea and looked up at the stars. She wasn't the girl Jake fell in love with. She wasn't even the girl he broke. She was someone new, someone whole. And that goodbye was the last chapter of an old book she no longer needed to read. Part 21. Doubt creeps. In weeks past, Owen was kind, consistent, gentle, but Ella had trouble trusting the calm. It felt too easy, too safe. Could love really be this soft? One night she asked him, "Do you ever feel like I'm holding back?" He looked at her and smiled. "Of course, but I know why, and I'm not going anywhere." Ella stared at him, unsure whether to feel grateful or guilty. Sometimes healing feels like betrayal, like you're leaving behind the pain you used to wear like armor. Part 22. The letters. Ella started writing letters she'd never send. To Jake, to herself, to the girl she used to be. Pages and pages of everything she'd bottled up. The rage, the heartbreak, the hope. She didn't write to forgive anyone. She wrote to understand herself. One letter simply said, "Thank you for breaking me. I had to fall apart to learn how to build better." She folded that one and placed it under her pillow. Part 23. A day in the rain. It rained in Brooklyn. Instead of hiding inside, Owen grabbed her hand and pulled her into the street. "Let's get wet," he laughed. They ran through puddles like kids, soaked and laughing. No destination, no phones, no rules. Ella looked at him, hair dripping, eyes full of joy, and felt her heart swell. Not from drama, not from pain, just joy. It was then she realized she was ready. Ready for love, for this life, for what comes next. Part 24. One small ring. They were sitting on their couch in socks and pajamas. No big speech, no grand gesture. Owen simply pulled out a small velvet box and said, "You don't have to say yes now. Or ever. I just wanted you to know. I choose you. Every day." Ella stared at the ring. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. She didn't say yes, but she kissed him like she meant it and whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." Part 25. Visiting the past months. Later, Ella returned to the old apartment she once shared with Jake. It was up for rent again. She walked by, peeked through the window. The lights were off, the space empty. But her mind filled in the details. The couch, the wine glasses, the ghosts of who she used to be. She didn't cry, she just whispered, "Thank you," and kept walking. Because the past wasn't her enemy anymore. It was just over. Part 26. A letter from Savannah. An unexpected envelope arrived. No return address, just her name in neat hand. No return address, just her name in neat handwriting. Inside was a letter. From Savannah. "I didn't know about you, Ella. I swear I didn't. When I found out, I left him too. I just wanted you to know that you weren't crazy and you weren't alone." Ella stared at the page for a long time, then smiled. Closure again. But this time, from someone who once stood on the other side of the lie. Part 27. Brooklyn Nights. Owen and Ella started hosting open mic nights at a local cafe. Poets, musicians, storytellers. One night she read a piece called "The Girl on the Fire Escape." The crowd applauded. Afterward, a stranger came up to her with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. That felt like me." Ella se dio cuenta. Su historia no era solo suya. It had power, meaning, reach. Maybe pain wasn't wasted if you turned it into light. Part 28. A yes, finally? It was snowing. They were watching movies under a blanket. Owen pulled out the same velvet box. Ella didn't wait. She said, "Yes," and meant it with every piece of her healed heart. It wasn't about the ring, or the wedding, or forever. It was about choosing. And she chose him, loudly, fully, freely. Part 29. Before the Vows. The night before their wedding, Ella stood in front of a mirror. She looked into her own eyes. No fear, no doubt. She remembered everything: the coffee shop, the heartbreak, the fire escape, the letters. But she didn't carry them like chains anymore. She carried them like medals. She had survived herself. And now she was ready to begin, not because of a man, but because of who she had become. Part 30. Her story, not his. The ceremony was small. Close friends, candlelight, music played by a violinist in the corner. As Owen read his vows, Ella smiled through tears. But she didn't cry because she was marrying him. She cried because she had finally married herself. Her dreams, her journey, her voice. And as they danced under the Brooklyn sky, she whispered, "This is my story now, and it's only just beginning."